It's interesting to me that almost everything seems to come back to this same point, which is to just see, to just observe, to just be. But that is a bit more vague to me. But to just see and hear right now nature and the birds. And when I did it this morning, just listening. It is really interesting that in that moment of listening, that there is no thought, you're just not thinking. And this is the moment when, for example, problems, but also positive things, they're not there. They're just gone. It's easy to get them back. And it's interesting that it all seems to come back to this state. I'm not sure if it is possible to always have, I would say, such a state of mind, for if that is possible for hours, days, weeks, for that sake, without change. Whereas right now, I would say that right now it is forced almost. I would say it is forced, if I'm honest, because I see it as a hyper-focused state. I'm hyper-focused on getting into it, and then it's there, and it's easily lost. And then I also have such thing as flow state, which I get into really easily when working, which, well, not on everything, but on a lot of stuff I work on, it is easy to get into that. But that's not really what I mean. It's really that hyper observance state. It's interesting to the things I listen to, the things I read. It all seems to come back to that one. It all seems to come back to observance without being occupied with observing. So no occupation of the mind. That's an interesting way to look at it. There's no one in there. It's not active, or it is surpassed, whatever it may be. And so far there seems to be something else where I see a pattern, which is being able to become aware. For every time when I become aware, well, not every time when I become aware, maybe there is a part in that where I'm not really aware yet, although I do think it is. I think there's a pattern where every time when I really become aware of the actual thing that is happening, and not the thing I think is happening, but in front of a lot of clouds that I haven't pushed away. I think that is the moment when I'm really aware, when there are no clouds. And every time when I really become aware of it, then of the actual thing, it seems to disappear. At least in that moment. I haven't figured out yet if that is a constant thing I need to be doing, or if that is a constant thing, maybe in different situations or different scenarios, has to be done again. I think that is a possibility, that I, every time when I have a problem or a negative emotion, whereas I do not care yet about the positive ones, even though I intellectually understand that they can't be there as well. So when I feel negative about something, I feel stressed, or when I have a problem, then right now I have to really remove all those clouds, which takes, well, effort, which is it's not ideal. It takes getting through all the misjudgments, or any judgments for that sake, and just seeing reality. And right now I have to do that every time. And sometimes I see it earlier or right away, see through it right away because it's a very similar situation for whatever other reason. But then it keeps happening still. So then there's a very possibility that it keeps happening in the future. And I think the change could be to really just see and observe without being occupied constantly, or whenever you want to, so it doesn't take effort, there's no action required, whereas there is no thought, negative emotion, perception rising up in the first place. I think this can be the solution / the only solution. Making sure that the thought cannot arise, does not arise. Only when you want to. Only when you want to think. It's interesting that there's so much difference between intellectual understanding of that thoughts are not real, that they're in fact just thoughts, but then that there's a very, very large gap in between that understanding, the actual understanding, the visceral understanding, the true understanding, whatever it is. There's so big of a gap. Why is it not easy to just hear something one time, seeing truth in it, and then just, that's it. And you don't think about it anymore. It is the thing that you heard is now part of you. This isn't true. Could it be repetition? Well, if I look back at my own life, I think repetition has played a role in the videos I watched, in the podcasts I watched. I do think that, especially the motivational speeches when I was younger, I listened to them every day, and I would say they became somewhat part of me. This is true. I could speak them from the top of my head, and even though that doesn't say much, I do think it has an impact on how I act, for sure, how I felt, for sure, especially during exercise, and how I trained, and how I thought, what I believed. And this is after all almost everything that we make ourselves. So there can be two things. It can be either doing that to good things, but what is good? It is a difficult thing. And the other thing would be to remove all of that and just basically expose yourself, to nothing at the same time. That also seems difficult. And I think I say it seems difficult because I don't know a way yet how you could remove that, how you could remove all the conditioning, because I don't see a way yet on how to remove the conditioning. It seems difficult / impossible. So the other option is what I'm doing right now, trying to find only the things in my life from the people around me that they say, but for the most part not, since there's very little, I would say, truth coming out of their mouths. And I don't say that in a bad way, it's just the unfortunate reality. So then the other exposure is just through filtering out on videos, podcasts, writings. And I've already noticed myself doing that a lot less. And I do see that hasn't been difficult. There have been moments when, I would say I felt back, but then that was also recognized easily and also not difficult to see through of why that happened. That's it. Talk soon.